I could see where people went, and it was literally, it was all over the place, people going to all the different spots. So how was that, to look at the differences? Was there something that jumped out at you?
Yes, something jumped out to our group was that two groups were exactly the same, and two were well, just changed in one category, 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed why they would choose that and why we chose ours, and we stuck to our guns.
Which one were you, Stuart?
We said the one where I better check now. Group 4, that young people initiated was 7 and the shared decision making was 8.
Well, we disagree.
Yeah, well, we thought about why you would say that, and it said that if you control something and you're giving ownership to others, right? But if you then become the initiator and you the leader itself, you've got the power. Whereas if you have adults there as equals in the decision-making process, you've actually gone the whole thing of participation. I don't know whether that makes sense or not.
Does it make sense to people?
I'm wondering, why did Caitlin disagree? I'd like to hear the background story to the disagreement.
Well, we had a long discussion about that point, because we thought that full participation of young people means like without adults. So we put the other one, let me see, and my group mates can jump in and correct me if I'm not representing our discussion correctly. But we thought young people led and initiated, where they completely decide everything about it, lead it, and they choose to invite an adult if necessary, but the project can be carried out without their intervention. That's kind of,
therefore you don't have an adult viewpoint.
Yeah, we talked about that. So we were kind of saying, okay, maybe it could depend on the nature of the project. If the nature of the project is influencing society in some way or getting involved in social change or something, then you probably need to include adults in that and try to influence them and involve them.
Yeah.
Okay, Nadia, can I ask Nadia, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we are not coming to it from the same perspective, because the nature of the organization itself and the nature of the youth work we are doing is different. There is not only one kind of youth work, there is different kind of youth work. And I think the one that my organization and myself are believing in is that it has to be ultimately youth-led. But this is because that's the choice of what we believe in. There is this kind of other organization, and maybe because of ethos or other maybe because of location, maybe of a lot of things, may have other kind of youth work. Youth work is not only one kind, there is different ways of doing youth work, but the one we believe in. And I think that's what we are trying to promote, is that is youth-led. But it is understandable that other places or other people may look at a youth work where there is this holding hand at all time, let's say. But we recognize that young people are knowledgeable and that they can actually make decisions, and that they can actually maybe get the help of an adult if they need to, not necessarily all the time, but if they request it. So we are here with the tools and trying to kind of, we are like here with all the tools in the pocket, and if they need something, we help. But but they can run it, they can do it. There is no issue. But as I say, I respect the different ways of doing youth work. It is different from what we do.
We won't stick too long with this discussion, because I want to show you what the original ladder is, and I will give you a short explanation, yeah? Which is very interesting, because when I've done this exercise many times, and this discussion is always the big discussion. And I find it a very, very interesting discussion, and it really is at the heart of participation, I think. So I'll share my screen now, and this is the original ladder. I will share it afterwards as well. And as you can see, in your discussion, it was the young people and adults shared decision making is the top of this ladder. Yeah, I can explain you why the reasoning behind it. First thing I want to really say that this ladder is not about you're good or bad, and it's not about everybody should be at the top rung or even one of the top rungs. Yeah, the main thing is that if you use this as a tool of recognition for your level of youth or your kind of youth work, you always have to think, who are my young people and what is it that they're able for and what is it what they need? Yeah. So like, even if you look at the wrong manipulation, which all of you put there as the first one. Yeah. I just shared a story of a young girl that was doing a presentation, and she was from Norway. She was in the head of the youth council in Norway. She was only 18 at that time. And she shared, oh no, she was less, she was not 18 yet. And she shared everything, how she got to that position. And someone asked her, but how did you start? And she said, pizza. And everybody was like, pizza? I said, yeah, my youth club, they gave pizza if I came. And I like pizza. So she started going to her youth club. Now that is actually manipulation. You try to get your young people here and you use any tool you can. So, but that got her involved. That got her to participate, and she went all the way up to the ladder, you know, after that. And she kept participating, but sometimes you have to use different tools to get to certain places. Of course, then this case, manipulation was used not in the way it's described here. It was used actually to help young people to come. People were aware what they were doing. But the last rung here, the interesting thing is it's similar to what you explained there, Stuart. Of course, in youth work, we work ultimately to get projects that are initiated by young people, that are led by young people, that young people take on and ask for help when they need it, and they are really taking it on. But if you look at participation in society, if you look at how we all participate in society, ultimately, we want a society where everybody can participate as equals. So it's not at this stage where young people go and are asking adults, what should we do? It's young people that recognize that they have skills, that adults have skills, and that everybody has skills. And you work together. And everybody takes part in this as a very fluid and harmonious process. That is the ultimate participation, where we are all equals. And not, because even if you say young people lead and initiate, you're still kind of leading from the back. Very often, because you're still the youth organization that has all the resources, that has everything there. So you're still kind of leading from the back, but it's when you're all equals, then you have full participation. That is behind this ladder. People are free to disagree and to see that this is not right, but for this tool, this is how this ladder is. So I don't know if someone wants to make a comment still, or have another observation, or you even, Janice, or...
May I just make a quick comment that with young people leading and initiating action, I imagined this would happen outside of a youth organization, that they're self-organized. And I wonder, is that the ultimate goal, or what do people think?
It's not really about the ultimate goal. It's about actually being aware of what's happening in your youth organization, I think, more than anything. And where you, as Nadia said, where you see yourself as a youth organization live. Yeah. And I think what is also really important is also to remember where your young people are, because if you throw young people in a young people-led project and say, you're gonna do it, but they're not ready for it, they will make a mess of it. Yeah. So sometimes you actually very often have to work through these steps of ladders before you get to that top.
Regardless of the project, you want them to be equipped with these skills wherever they are. And if the skill is that they share decision making, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to make one comment, because I think this is, you know, it's very idealistic and something that we should all strive for in relation to the work that we do with young people. But I do believe that we need a real shift in thinking in the Irish youth work sector and in the formal education system to be able to achieve this. I think our approach to working with young people in Ireland as a society is quite maternalistic or paternalistic, and we tend to wrap them up in cotton wool and mind them and you know, we empower
God
them
forbid
to
they hurt themselves.
yeah, and we did speak a bit about this last week, but we empower them to a point where we then disempower them sometimes because we don't trust them to go off and make the mistakes that they need to make to actually, you know, understand that I can do this better next time. So I think there's a big shift needed in Irish society in relation to young people and how we perceive young people and how we encourage young people to grow and develop as conscious, active citizens. Stuart.
And that's really come to the fore in the last week, where all the fee-paying schools and the grind schools are complaining about their results being pushed down, where they traditionally had advanced students, and maybe not applicable to the international situation, but the Irish secondary school system is really about spoon feeding. And parents pushing kids to grind schools to get extra marks to grades to get them into the university they think they should get into, and that's not empowering at all. That's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know?
And
that's the biggest change that I noticed from the Irish system to what I was used to in the Australian system.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember, I know we've talked a lot about Finland, but the Finnish organisation that's been mentioned a couple of times, they asked, you know, at what age would children be allowed to walk to school? And a lot of the Irish people said, oh, you know, probably 12, 13. And they're like, oh my God, we live in the forest. Our children are walking to school from the age of 6 and 7. And it's really interesting to look at the comparisons and what influences that. Sorry, Caitlin, I think you were, Amika.
Yeah, that's the last point, and we need to move on after that. Yeah, so Caitlin?
Oh, okay. We had an interesting discussion in our group about the difference between how we perceive ourselves as working on the ladder, sort of as individuals, versus the perspective that our organizations put forward. And we all felt a difference there.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Because of course, and you can use this ladder of participation also as employees. How is your organization working with you? Yeah, can be used in many different ways. Okay, so I had not expected such a big discussion, which I should have expected really. So we're running a little bit over, but it also runs in very much into the next session where we look at what you prepared over the weekend, if you did prepare. So we were checking while you were in the waiting room, and we saw that loads of you were actually in the document. So I'd say some of the homework might have been done this morning. So when you go into that and share these tools, also maybe don't forget this discussion you had about the participation, because the participation with the tools is at the heart, of course. It's at the heart of any tool that you do in this, and definitely developed during this seminar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you back into groups of 3. There's one group of 2 as we are now. Shall I make 2 groups of 4, or are people happy to work in a group of 2? You see more tools if we are in a larger group. Maybe I make 2 groups of 4. It is nicer. Yeah. Just thinking out loud here. So I just changed that. It's very hard because with the other tools that I used, I could kind of see what you were doing on the Jamboards and in your spaces, where now I could not see anything at all. So hopefully it was useful. So how was the discussion? How was it for you, the sharing? Just some feedback of some people.
In our group, I was with Kim, Mari, and Michelle. We came to sort of conclusion, I can say. It was like that every tool or method should start with like an energizer, getting to know each other, like who is who. That's good for the group bonding, for the team building, actually. We thought it is necessary to start with something like that. And that all our tools or methods are focused on shared decision making, that we always want to give like the ownership to the young people, that we are there, we give them like a guideline, but it's always to the young people to go for it, to search us, that we are more in the background. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? I saw that someone did not receive the homework email. Michelle, was that? I'm so sorry about that.
See,
Yeah,
we
sorry,
had
Michelle. I'm not sure why that happened. I'll have to check that I have the correct email address for you. So apologies.
we had a variety of different activities by different people with different viewpoints, and they actually just opened my eyes to, you know, the creative of individuals, you know, to that sort of length they can go to, and different activities we can go to engage, empower. It's unbelievable.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Stuart. Is it quite different in the formal sector, you know, following the curriculum, and do you still have a lot of freedom to develop your own creative tools, or is it quite different?
Creative tools in terms of the context is a bit hard because you've got to follow a curriculum. But when you're talking about citizenship and empowerment and the environment and things like that, I mean, you can bring it in occasionally. I'm a scientist, so I can bring in the environment quite a lot. But in terms of you know, empowerment and decision making and political process, it's very hard to do that in the confines of the school curriculum. As I said, I engage in extra curricular activities, you know, and that's why this has come up.
Mm.
Yeah.
But school is very limiting.
Yeah, it can be.
Mm.
Anyone else?
We just had such a wonderful showcase of different activities. This has been the best part so far of the course.
Okay.
Great.
And what kind of activities were they?
We had one from Stuart where it's focusing the young people on the direction we're going in terms of the youth goals and getting them to think about what's important to them. And then from Andra, we had street football for tolerance, which was really cool.
Mm.
And from Dora, we had like a really creative method of looking at your community and trying to address issues and working like really creatively together and in a fun way, commenting on each other's ideas and choosing some ideas to start taking action on already. And I had backcasting, which some of you may have heard of, but it's where you start from a future ideal scenario in this case, and you work backwards to the present. And then ultimately you tell the story in past tense, as if you're in the future. You tell the history of how you achieved your dream future.
Nice.
Okay, I'm actually writing down some of the keywords of things that you guys saying. I'm not sharing it because then we can't see each other's face when we talk. So I will add it to the feedback later in the email. Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
So Rita, Monica, and myself. So we saw that we have, like we had one on self-awareness for young people when it comes to when they say I'm doing nothing, what does it mean to them? So it's just to look where participation in their free time is involved around. What is it really that they do? Or it's just to bring awareness around it. We had a consultation with young people and information. So we were trying always to put it on the ladder, really. So just to see where are we at. So we kind of try to link it with the ladder and see. And it was kind of reflective for us to see if it's how the empowerment was happening in those exercises. We had as well a third one was to link them with the stakeholders and how they can enter that participatory and decision-making space for their town, for their villages. So yeah, it was very interesting. We will probably have needed 1 more hours to to break it a bit down and you know, and see how we could actually incorporate things in others. So definitely worth to revisit, I say. Yeah, it was great.
You might apply for your own seminar when you're finished listening to some kind of tool for maybe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Were all the tools developed in such a way that they can be shared afterwards? Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really good. So please make sure you send me the links so we can share them. Yeah.
I put the links on the group chat.
Okay.
But I just realised that at the end of the group chat, end of this is going to disappear. So I just copied and pasted the ones that are there at the moment. There's 2 there at the moment.
Okay. They are in everybody's group chat here. Hold on. Can I see? No, they're in your group chat. They're not to everyone.
Oh, it's sent to everyone.
Maybe if you can put them to everyone, then I will pick them up from there. So if anyone else already has the link to their template, then add it there and we can just pick them up there.
I just sent it per email to Ruth.
Perfect. Also fine. No problem. Yeah.
That's probably better actually, is it, Mika?
Yeah.
To give them all to
Either way
Ruth.
works.
Yeah.
Okay. Janice, you still have something to ask or to add?
No, I think this brings us now to break time. So you have until 10:55. Am I right?
They have 10 minutes to 10:50. Yeah, 55 is fine.
Okay, so we're finished a bit earlier. So you have until 10:55. And then in the second half of today, Ruth will make a presentation on the different actions in Erasmus Plus and the different opportunities available to you for funding. So we're very conscious that some people are newcomers. So, you know, that part of the session will be completely new to you and very exciting, and I'm sure equally as exciting for other people. And then in the final part of today, we want to give you some time to do some action planning. So before you leave us, it's very easy to leave a seminar and go away, you know, oh, it was wonderful and we learned lots, but what do you want to do with it now? So in the final part of today, we will make some time for action planning in terms of, you know, what needs to happen next, who needs to be involved, by when is this going to happen. So we'll introduce that after the break. But for now, you have, like I said, until 10:55. So enjoy, and we'll see you back on screen at 10:55.
Projects. So what is a solidarity project? It's a project that is an in-country solidarity activity, and it's initiated, developed and implemented by the young people themselves. So a minimum of 5 young people get together, age 18 to 30, and they carry out a project for a duration of 2 months to 12 months in their locality to make a change on an issue that they care about, something that affects them. Project management they receive is €500 per month for a maximum of 12 months, and they're expected to really develop their project. So it should have a preparation phase, an implementation phase, activities, evaluation, dissemination and follow-up. They don't have to go it completely alone. There's a possibility to get coaching costs of €241 per day for a max of 12 days. So they can involve a coach from their organization or outside to get in some expertise and to really engage at that level as well. So, because the solidarity projects are quite new, and there's something that you can actively do at the moment because they're in country. So that's something that with COVID-19, you've more of a chance to implement coming with the future deadline. We're just going to have a look at those in a little bit more detail. Sorry, I'm just going to go out of the screen share, if you just give me a moment. Because I want to make sure I have the sound on my video. I've forgotten to do that before. Everybody hear that?
You have an idea on how to make life in your community better? Are you up for a challenge to bring about positive change? Do you know young people looking to take action within their community? Then a solidarity project can be for you. For a solidarity project, you will need to gather a group of at least 5 young people aged between 18 and 30. All of you must be residents in one and the same participating country. The focus of your solidarity project will need to be an issue that matters to your group and is relevant in your community, such as climate change, gender equality, democratic participation, or other topics. Your group can address some essential challenges within the local area while also helping to tackle regional or even wider issues. Solidarity projects are carried out locally, but they have a clear European added value. You need to link your solidarity action to priorities relevant at the European level, such as inclusion, employability, entrepreneurship, training, health and well-being. Solidarity actions depend on the cause and may include diverse working ways. Here are some examples. A repair cafe at a makerspace to reduce environmental impact. Theatre workshops to involve asylum seekers in a community. A skateboard and BMX park available for all. Organic farming or a community garden to address unhealthy eating habits, socialize. A solidarity project can last from 2 to 12 months. Together with your group, you will need to plan and carry out concrete daily activities. Your team will choose actions to make a difference in your community, will lead and evaluate planned activities. Your active role and involvement in running a solidarity project is expected to grow your personal, social, educational and civic superpowers. The European Solidarity Corps program offers a fixed monthly amount to contribute to the costs of your project activities. It can also cover costs to support the participation of young people with fewer opportunities. Your group will manage the finances of the project. You may reach out to any public or private organization in your area that can support your group in applying and running a solidarity project. Coaching costs can be included in the project's budget. A coach is a resource person who can be identified from outside your group or organization to support your group in fostering learning throughout the project. There are 6 steps to get your group ready to apply for the Solidarity Project's funding. Create your group. Call other young people from your community and get together as a team sharing a common idea or topic. Make sure everyone is registered. All members of the group should join the European Solidarity Corps portal. Obtain an organization's ID. One member of the group takes the role of the group leader and registers on the organization registration system. Alternatively, you can identify an organization that has a valid ID number and is willing to apply on your behalf. Do your preparation. It's time to get geeky. Read the specific guidance and watch tutorials on how to write your application to know what to expect when filling in the form. Create your project, structure and plan your activity, cross-check it with the guide for applicants, and fill in the application web form. Submit your application before the deadline. It may take around 3 months for a funding decision to be made, depending on the country where the application was submitted. All solidarity projects should consider the earliest and latest eligible start dates for activities, as described in the European Solidarity Corps Guide.
Okay, so those videos are handy little summaries, and I can share more with you on the various key actions, so they can kind of explain. Oh, sorry.
Brilliant. Okay, Ruth, so can I?
No, just a second.
Oh.
Do I have a little bit more time, Janice?
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were finished. Yeah.
Okay. No, I just had to go out to something. The video started to play again. So what are your next steps with Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Corps? Explore the program guides. So the program guides are like your Bible to Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps, and it will tell you all of the dates, the deadlines, the requirements, everything like that. And I can give you links to those in that email that I'm going to send out as well. Check out the Lergos website for summaries of that and for more information. Inform your colleagues, staff and young people about the opportunities that are available. Engage in training opportunities. So we have transnational cooperation activities like the one that you're on now. So these will mostly be online from now in the coming year. And that's a great way to engage and to network and to get some ideas and inspiration. You can connect with your national agency and attend discovery days, project labs, application clinics. These are all various workshops that will be online. that Lergas have, and your own national agency will have its own information sessions and ways of disseminating information. So get in touch with them and keep yourself informed. I have a list of resources here that can help you. Now, does anybody have any questions? That's a very quick fly-through overview of everything, and I hope I haven't overloaded you with information. Some of you may be very familiar with it, but some may be newcomers. So,
Ruth, when's the next deadline for the Solidarity Corps applications?
the Solidarity Corps applications, I'll be able to get that information for you, and that's not my sector. So,
Okay. Oh, I can check
my area of expertise, but I'll send that on to you.
Thanks.
I think it's the 4th of October.
Okay. I had kind of forgotten it existed, but of course it would make really good sense to do that now.
Yes, that's something that you can start engaging in probably with once the COVID restrictions ease up a little bit, while the others, it's more future planning, definitely.
And Ruth, just in terms of the other deadlines, there's still three, just for anybody who's new, there's still 3 deadlines a year? For the...
There's 3 deadlines a year. The next deadline is the 1st of October for youth, that's for Erasmus+. And there'll be a deadline in February, a deadline in April, and a deadline in October.
Okay.
Great. What kind of key action could you see yourself applying for, or are you working on at the moment, or? I'd just be interested to know.
Working on a KA2 strategic partnership for innovation at the moment, and it's the first one of that type of key action that my NGO is going to do. So we're a bit nervous treading new territory.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. And what kind of area is it in? Is it in active participation or?
Yeah, it's on youth empowerment for environmental action combined with sort of nature-based well-being. So trying to combat eco-anxiety.
Okay, that sounds excellent. Yeah, I wish you luck with your application.
Thanks.
Ruth, you're breaking up a bit there. I'm not sure if other people can feel that too.
Sorry, Janice, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you now, yeah.
Okay.
This is not a question, but maybe a tip or a trick for anybody working in the area of inclusion. If you're not familiar with exceptional costs, you can apply for exceptional costs for the preparation of young people with fewer opportunities. So a very practical example of that might be if your young people are going on a youth exchange to, from a cold country to a hot country, you can apply for exceptional costs for summer clothing or even suitcases. It has to be very well justified from the national agency's point of view. But I suppose anybody who's working in the area of inclusion will identify that, sometimes parents can't afford to pay for these things. It's not always the case. So I don't want to, create false stereotypes. It's not always the case, but it is an option. And passports, I think, would be another one, or if they're traveling to a country, passports.
But also, if you work with young mothers, there's also special arrangements that can be, asked for.
In terms of childcare, Mika, do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, we sent a young mother to a youth exchange, and her child's travel was also covered.
One question, is it an exceptional cost also like a test for during this pandemic situation? If somebody, I don't know, the country from Western Balkans is included and needs to go to the EU country and they need to done a test, so can it be included as a possibility?
Well, an exceptional cost is anything that's a barrier to participation of a young person with fewer opportunities. So if getting the test and the cost of that test or the cost of the GP visit is a barrier to them participating, then yes, it will be covered. You just have to justify it in the narrative part of the application.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should apply for that, because you don't know when that test is needed. It can just change from one day to the next.
Yeah, but in terms of exceptional costs, obviously it has to be included from the beginning. So with something that happens in an emergency or crisis, the costs may not be, well, they won't be included if you haven't applied for them at the start.
So apply for it, do add it. If that's an option, I would really add it at this stage. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Has everybody seen the Erasmus Bible? Yeah, some people have it for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Yeah. If you haven't seen it and you do see it, don't panic. It can be quite intimidating. But what I would suggest is go and find the section that's relevant to your project and start there. Otherwise, it can become quite overwhelming. Yeah, you refer to it as the Bible. I've definitely learned to use it as my Bible for a number of different actions and projects. But if you're a newcomer, just find the section that's relevant to your project, start there, eat it in small chunks, and as your experience grows in the program, you can tackle the other parts of the program guide.
But also what is very important, I guess, if you go into applications, is that you keep it relevant, because sometimes people get really stuck in, oh, this is something that I have to put in, this is something I have to add. Mm-hmm. But very often think that they're asked, like even inclusion, the question of inclusion, it's asked. But if you look at your organization, it will have to be relevant to your organization. So I think one of the presentations talked about that, make it work in your strategy. If you make this work in your strategy, you can actually see how it links. The youth goals, I say most organizations work within the youth goals. So recognize that. Someone else can't read your mind writing it. Yeah, so you always, if you think, oh yeah, this is important, don't you say this is important, but you say this is important because of this and this, and write everything. Don't leave things out.
Yeah, Caitlin, I think your tool is very relevant there in terms of application writing, that you nearly have a vision for what you've achieved already, and then you go back and kind of map out the different things.
It's very different what you create if you start from now and think, oh, what do I need to do next? Or if you start from what you really want to achieve and work backwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't forget, make as it was said before, cut it up and get your young people, get them started on it. Explain the difficult words, explain the relevance of the different words, and they can do it. I've done it so many times. Get 2-3 people work on one part and they can actually write the application. And Lurgus loves it to see that. And they will mark it not accordingly, but there is, how do you call it, Ruth, that principle.
The assessment criteria?
No, the principle of, I can't remember the word.
Proportionality.
Proportionality. Yeah, so that is a principle that if your organization is very young, that will be taken in account, or young if it's a new organization, but also if it's very clear this is written by young people, that will be taken in account. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not that you get more points, but it will just be taken in a proportional account.
Before we move on, can I just ask, who here would consider themselves to have a lot of experience in Erasmus? Do we have anybody? Yeah, great. Anybody else? Yeah, so for the people who have experience, do you have any tips or tricks or suggestions for people who are just starting?
I would say always look for the deadlines, and about the Bible, read carefully the goals and translate it for your project. Which goals will you achieve, and describe it well. And also think about the management, because our national agency is really strict, and then really want to see how you will achieve these goals. So you should have a good plan. And just a great ideas without a good plan, it will not work.
Really good advice.
And dissemination and evaluation. How you also will disseminate and evaluate throughout the project, not just at the end. Maybe that you do some surveys with your youngsters at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Yeah. Maybe this would be the main things.
I'm no expert in the field, but I did apply twice, and I got some really good feedback from Pia, and following her recommendations in terms of outcomes, how you're going to achieve them, how you're going to review them, your follow up, all those sort of nitty gritty things need to be, dot your I's and cross your T's sort of thing.
Very good, yeah. And so did you have your peer proofread the application, Stuart? They proofread the application and then make recommendations, is it?
Yeah, well, essentially what we had individuals write different sections of it. We went through an Erasmus 3, KA3 application, and different groups wrote different parts, and we had a coordinating team who read it, put the whole thing together.
Very good.
Yeah. But again, we were trying to engage young people right from the outset, from the application through the instigation process. Even though my name was on it as the submitter and things like that, and obviously legal documents had to go through the principal of the school, etc. Essentially, it was run by young people.
Yeah. Actually, when you go back to the ladder of participation, that's one example of where the adults and the young people have to work in partnership, because you're obviously somebody has to be identifiable as the legal person on the application, and they have to be over 18. So that's probably one area where, a good example of the young people and adults having to work together. Is there any other comments or suggestions?
Mari, you have some experience. So you, Mari?
Well, yes, we mainly do Key Action 1, so youth exchanges and seminars or trainings. Well, we did get funding for 2 volunteers, but we'll see if we will get them next year. In Finland, the Finnish National Agency is also they want to see, I can literally let the young people write the applications. Yeah. That's a really good thing. They don't care if you have if they've misspelled something, or if it's not that clear structure, they will still appreciate it much higher. And with us, the emphasis is also with the follow-up, so evaluation and dissemination. And then, but I also recommend that if you want to apply, then participate to trainings and go to these, because also I think partners are very important. So if you want to find good partners, you should meet them in advance, go to these partner seeking seminars, or like this training, for instance. If anybody wants to do a project, you can contact me and we can see if we have the same values, or if it's the same kind of project if the same aims we might have, and so on. So I think that's very difficult to find good partners, because especially with seminars and trainings, you should plan the program together with the partners. So you need a lot of time, and you need to be able to trust them and to actually know them pretty well as well, of course, with most things. But
that's really good advice, and I'm glad you brought that up, because in the break, we spoke about, in reality, we would be spending a lot of time together, both in the training and in an informal way in the evening. So you will have each other's details after the training outside of the Facebook group route, won't they? If they want to pick it up and look at applying for things together, if anybody.
Well, it might be best to contact each other via the Facebook group, just for GDPR of giving out personal details and things like that. I think it'd be best to contact and get in contact via the Facebook group. Okay,
I think we might have 1 or 2 people who are not on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm
right?
so sorry. I left Facebook and I'm not going back.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
But if everybody agrees in sharing each other's emails, then the GDPR is okay, isn't it? Here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So are people happy with that?
Yeah.
Anyone not happy?
No, but I'm just gonna link my work email then.
Yeah.
So now I think you have my private email. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna link my work email.
Okay, so you send that on to me.
Yeah. Or I'd set it in the chat, I don't know, or I'm mailing it.
Yeah, no, send it to Ruth directly.
It's easy.
Yeah. I also still wanted to say something about that, what you said there about the Finnish National Agency, And that brings me to a point that every national agency is different. It's very strange, but if you work international, you start realizing that. And it's also about being savvy. You know, if you know that a national agency is very supportive towards young people, then let your partner that is in that country apply. So choose where the application goes, because for sure Ireland and Finland, and I'd say Belgium as well, are very, very supportive for young people and are easier to apply for. The smaller countries are often easier to apply. If you know that your country is very difficult to apply to, find a partner in another country that are easier to apply to. And there is so many participants here from Ireland, for instance, and Ireland is very supportive towards getting young people involved. Yeah, and is less stuck with bureaucracy of the application. They're still strict. It's not that it's a crap application, you will not get it anywhere, but you will just have more chances. Yeah, Dora?
Yeah.
You need
I just wanted to add about the Croatian National Agency that we have. They're really active in the work of education about regarding the Erasmus and the opportunities to check our application before the deadline and give us a feedback.
Great.
Yeah. Now for this deadline, it's the 21st of September, the last date where they check. And I just wanted to add my organization is applying for the Erasmus K1 Action Youth Exchange for the first time, and I believe that a bit of advice is the importance of the feedback. Like 6 young people are working on this project, and we are just for each section, everybody is giving the feedback to this text, the application. So I believe that this is the really important thing, to see the other's perspective. Yeah, that's
nice.
Great. So is there any final question for Ruth or for any of us before we move on? No? Okay, so in that case, just one last thing from me, it popped into my head when Mika was speaking. You don't have to be the host country to be the applicant. No. So if you, if I wanted to send my young people to Macedonia, for example, or to Finland, I can apply for that here in Ireland as well. So sometimes I think people think that you have to be the host to make the application. And certainly in Ireland, that's not the case. So it ties into what Mika said about, you know, the different national agencies, how they work, their approach, their budgets, all that kind of stuff.
And one final thing to that as well. You're talking about at national agencies giving feedback. Also, you be proactive. If you do not know your national agency, call them, ask them, get in contact, ask the questions, because each national agency has slightly different rules. Yeah, so always make sure that your ideas, that they actually are valid in your national agency. Always double check, and they will answer you. Sorry, that was just on that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to share my screen for a few minutes. Okay. So before we move into the action planning, I wanted to do a quick recap on the last couple of days. So just to bring you back to day one, obviously we spent a bit of time getting to know each other. And then we heard from Chloe and Owen in terms of young people's perspective on conscious active citizenship. So they spoke about the different types of projects that they were involved in, but also about their experience of young people and how they felt empowered in relation to the organizations that they're part of. So hopefully you learned something from that. And then we moved on to day two, and we heard from Declan, who was very enthusiastic and very energetic presenter, and one of the young people that he works with, Andrew, and they spoke to us about their project. And we also had Rosemary Finnerty from Cork, and she spoke to us about her youth exchange. And unfortunately, her young person couldn't make it on the day, but I think she gave a really good overview of her project and how the young people were involved, particularly from an empowerment point of view. And then today, we looked at the models and tools to promote conscious active citizenship. And you heard from Ruth in relation to the variety of different actions and opportunities available in Erasmus Plus, and that's very connected to the European Youth Goals. I forgot to mention that on day 2 with Pia. So having heard all of that, you know, from the various different speakers and from yourselves in small groups, we didn't get to hear a lot of the conversations in the small groups. We obviously had the privilege of hearing the feedback, but we weren't in those small groups. So hopefully they were a fruitful experience for everybody. So you've been in a lot of small groups, but what we want to do now, we were thinking about, you know, how would this work in reality in a real life seminar? And usually by now people will have made connections and they'll probably be planning in the context of new projects and working together in an international context. But it's a little bit different on Zoom. So for now, what we'd like to do, I'm going to send you a link in the chat in a couple of minutes. And it's a Google form. We'll be asking everybody to complete it so that we can share everybody's ideas with the rest of the group when we finish the seminar. So basically what it looks like is, you know, from your point of view, what needs to happen next? So what is a concrete next step that you can take? Why does that need to happen? So back to, you know, you don't design a tool without having a rationale. So you're not going to design an Erasmus project without having a very concrete rationale. And hopefully it will be tied into conscious active citizenship and how you can, you know, have your young people more engaged. Like any goal, I suppose it's important to look at when will it happen, who will do it, and by when. Okay, so we call this the 5 W's template, and it's a very simple planning tool. You know, we could have gave you some really complex ones, but we didn't want to wreck your head at the end of the seminar. So this is very simple technique for planning. So I'll stop sharing my screen for the moment. And I'm going to pop the Google into the chat. So everybody should be able to access this. I'm going to give you about 12 minutes, okay, just to be complicated. I'll give you about 12 minutes to do this. So you can turn off your camera, turn yourself on mute. It's really, now is the time for you to reflect on your learning in the last 3 days and how you want to move that forward in your organisation. So is that clear? Is there any questions? No? Okay, so okay, just for the sake of not making things complicated, if you come back at 11:45, 13 minutes. Okay? Good. And if you have any questions, pop them into the chat, we'll be here.
I didn't receive the link, Janice, or anyone.
Did anybody get the link?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So, and there's some really concrete action-focused ideas and suggestions in there. So we were conscious that this was the last thing we had to do today and we wouldn't have time to share everything. So we are going to compile this and send it to everybody. But in the meantime, is there something from that activity that anyone would like to share? In terms of your own process and next steps? Yeah, Caitlin, do you want to?
Sure.
Caitlin is already, she's already trying to get people.
But as far as that activity, it's actually not about that project that I just wrote the comment on in the chat, but Ruth, I didn't know about the potential for in-country funding because we've been feeling, oh, we can't do any mobility. This is so, yeah. But so now I think I will talk to some of my young people who are really motivated and they already have sort of started their own projects. And I will tell them that we could maybe get them some funding and then, you know, we can get some coaches in to support them and make their projects go even further. So that's what I put down as my next steps is I really want to try to encourage some young people to do a solidarity application.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
and you know,
anyone working in participation is very happy to get those solidarity projects back. We've had something similar in the past, but this is so empowering. It's amazing. They're so good.
Yeah. And it could be nice to find a young person that's maybe experienced as a coach as well. You know, it could be inspiring for the young people.
Great idea. Like some of the ones that we met on this course. I already connected with Owen on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. I didn't give up all social media.
Very good. So any other comments from the process of doing the action planning activity? So I'm very happy to see that somebody is already going to sit down with their team and talk about how to move this forward, because they don't want it to be an individualized approach. It needs to be an organizational approach. So really happy to see that in there. If you're always the champion of Erasmus Plus, you'll always be the champion of Erasmus Plus. So it's good to have other people on board to progress those projects as well.
Also, just a comment about, I saw someone, maybe we should apply for the October deadline, which is really fantastic to see. But just make sure that, you know, a participative project preparation takes longer. If you want to get young people involved, if you want young people taking the lead, you often take more time. So you might be better off applying a little bit later and then get it really well prepared. But then also at the same time, if Caitlin, for instance, you already have a group of people that already have a project, they already have a project idea, and it's just a case of translating it into the language of an Erasmus Plus application and to take the benefits of an application, of course, then it's possible. But just make sure that you do give it time, because very often when you get into a rush, the participation goes out of the door and the adult leader will just push it through. And that would be a real pity. It would be a lost opportunity for young people.
Absolutely. I'm just picking up on one thing here in the comments, and it's start the conversation around conscious active citizenship with young people and what that means, because obviously, you know, people have learned, have a different level of learning from the seminar, but it's about young people. And I know, Mika, you wanted to have young people in this seminar, and originally that was the idea, and with how COVID and, you know, brought us into a different space, it prevented us from doing that. So
actually, with the online meetings, we could have young people. There's no child protection.
Well,
that opens opportunities. I just realized that while you're saying it.
Well, that's debatable across the sector, Mika, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, but they can be invited to something like this, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're very punctual today. And for the last couple of minutes, I'm going to hand you over to Ruth. Just again, thank you for doing that. We will share with everybody, and there's some really good ideas in there.
Okay, everyone, so we're coming to the end of our seminar. It's been great to have you all, and your participation is very much appreciated. And it'll be great to see some real projects actually come out of this and see the active participation of young people within these projects. We have an evaluation, and we're going to send that on to you with a follow-up email, and send you a follow-up email with various information and slides and presentations and everything else from the course. We'd very much appreciate if you fill out that evaluation, because your feedback is very welcome, and that's how we improve on things and we progress with our training courses. So thanks very much.
Brilliant. I know you're going to send out the evaluation, Ruth, but could maybe we just have one word? I know it's hard for people who like to talk a lot like me, but just one word to sum up how you're feeling now at the end of the 3 days. And we'll do what we did at the beginning. I'll call on Michelle, and then Michelle, you can pick somebody to be your next victim.
One word, I'm like you, I talk too much. Informed. I'm going to pick Kim.
One word's kind of hard, but maybe variety.
Variety.
And Caitlin.
Right at the moment, I'm feeling very invigorated. Mari.
Okay. So you pick somebody, Caitlin?
Yes, I'm going to pick, I am inspired, and I will hand it to Dora.
I just wanted to say that same word. So, I will say then motivated. Highly motivated.
You can say inspired as well.
Just not to be the same. Okay, Stuart.
Oh, Stuart, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Now?
Yeah.
I felt challenged actually, because I've met so many people with so many brilliant ideas and so many different ways of doing things. I think I need to sort of keep reinventing the wheel, but I'm inspired by it as well.
So you pick somebody now, Stuart?
Who hasn't had a turn? Kim?
No, Kim was.
Has had a
I already
turn.
went.
Andrea?
Yeah, I took, maybe I will just bring two things. First is the participational ladders and second is discussions. And
one word, Andrea.
Zita, did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a word that just pops in my head, and that's ownership. So more like the input. And I'm gonna give the word to Rita.
For me, it was creativity with all the ideas and tools and everything with all the projects. So I pass to Monica.
For me, it was like I got new information now, so the word would be informed. And I don't know, everybody had all.
Me, Mika, Ruth.
So Mika.
Okay. Yeah.
Mika. So that's me. I'd say I picked surprised. I was surprised that there was still, even your words, that there's still inspiration, even though we're sitting here online. I think surprised.
One word, Mika, no special treatment.
I said surprised. Ruth.
Re-energized.
And that leaves me. Is that right? Am I the last?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So reconnected. Okay. So Ruth, would you like to have the last word?
Just thank you very much for participating in this training course, and I hope it was valuable to you. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
I might just do the last word because I feel responsible for the tool sharing section. So please send your links, and if you don't have a link, download the document and send it to Ruth. Yeah, because it is really a missed opportunity if we don't share our tools.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Now I'm actually having the last word. So keep up the good work, everybody. It was really nice to meet everybody on screen, and it's always brilliant to have people who are not from the non-formal world. So it's brilliant to have people who are coming from the formal education sector as well, and that have the willingness to bring this way of working into the formal institutes as well. So yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.